Back when I was in school, I had this bright orange bicycle which I used to use for all my commutes. It was a very lovely companion for covering countless kilometers, and I have fond memories of that cycle. It was, however, a little basic when we spoke about the features, but I liked it nonetheless. However, I think I would have loved something like this back then. This, dear viewer, is the Avanti Discovery MS1, and it's going to cost you about 37,000 rupees, and for that money you get a lot of kit on this bike. But first, I must mention that it looks very smart. It has kind of a minimalistic design. We have this in the black color with some accents here and there, but I still think it looks very handsome. Now, as I mentioned, the kit, well, you get a side stand on this, you get a bell which works well, and you also get disc brakes at both ends. You have 21 gears to play around with, and you also have a front suspension which is adjustable for preload. So like I mentioned, you get a lot for your money. But how does it all perform? Once you get on the bike, you will notice this nice and wide handlebar, and even the grips at the end are pretty good to hold even if you've been riding for a long time. The seat is a bit hard and there is no suspension at the back, so that will bother you over long journeys and especially if you are going over bad roads. But overall, the rider triangle is kind of neutral, so that means you can ride for long hours without feeling fatigued or having too much stress on your shoulders or arms. The pedals are kind of small compared to some other cycles I've ridden in the past, but still I had no troubles using them. But if you are someone who likes bigger pedals or ones that come with extra grips, then this is something you will have to look into. Now, coming back to how the cycle feels to ride, well, in terms of comfort, it is pretty good because you have this suspension up front which has a travel of 65 mm, and you can also set it for preload adjustment very easily using this knob right here. So it does a very good job of soaking in the undulations on the road or if you encounter any speed breakers. However, like I mentioned, the seat is a bit stiff and you don't have a suspension at the back, so that becomes problematic and you will have to buy padded shorts or change the seat cushion to somewhat counter that problem. A big part of your riding experience on a cycle like this depends on the gear setup, and while we usually see Shimano derailleurs and shifters, on this one Avanti has used micro shift, and I'm happy to report that this setup also works well when you're riding normally. I did, however, find the shifting a little less than perfect. At times it does take a little while to shift or doesn't shift as smoothly and precisely as you would like. You control the 7 cassettes at the back using the levers here. You have 2 of them, and the 2 levers here control the ones at the front. Now, I have one more issue with these levers because while this one at the front is absolutely fine to use, when you want to come down, then instead of having a trigger over here, you have to push this one back. So that is slightly inconvenient. You do get used to it, but I do wish that you had trigger style levers up here, which makes it a little more intuitive. You get Kenda tires on both ends, and this rubber is good when you are riding on smooth tarmac like this, and even if you encounter some loose gravel or slightly tricky situations. You obviously can't take it for like proper off-roading, but these tires do a good job of managing most of the terrain that you would find in the city. As for the brakes, like I mentioned, you get disc brakes on both ends, and I really like that because these brakes work really well. The rear brake has a nice progression, the front one also has a nice feel to it, and when you press hard, they do have the bite to slow you down and bring you to a halt safely. So that is something I really appreciated. Even in terms of adjustability, you get a lot of options. You can change the seat height, you can change the angle of the handlebars, and like I said, you can adjust the front suspension for preload, and you have 21 gears to suit almost each and every riding condition or terrain that you find yourself riding on. I will admit that this is not the most lightweight cycle I've ridden in a while, but still, when you are on the move, when you are pedaling on the road, you don't notice the weight. And even if you have to move this cycle around, physically pick it up and put it somewhere, you won't mind the weight because it's still pretty light. So looks like Avanti has produced yet another great bicycle which is going to impress a lot of people. I really like that it's well equipped. Yes, there are some compromises in terms of the shifting mechanism, but still, if you want a bicycle with disc brakes, you want something that has a decent amount of kit, looks good and rides well also, then this is definitely a good choice to go for. As always, if you liked this video, make sure to hit like. If you have any questions regarding this cycle or any suggestions, then you can put them down in the comments. And lastly, if you have not done yet, make sure to hit that new subscribe button. I'll see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.